guys, and welcome to the Moms and Mysteries podcast, a true crime podcast featuring myself, Mandy, and my dear friend, Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Mandy. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited because we are back with another bonus episode.
And a very special one that doesn't just include the two of us.
Yes.
We've done too much of that. No, I'm over it, and I'm part of it. No, we have a very special guest with us today. We have Gabe Lenners from the podcast Obscurum. Super excited to get into it with him and talk to him about all things drone-related things. I don't know if space will come up. Conspiracy theories have to come up because Mandy's here.
That's why I'm here.
That's the only reason she showed up. Gabe, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here and hang out with you all.
Wow, we don't get that a lot or ever.
Well, it really is, though. I'm excited. I'm excited to kick things off here. So
wow, I'm thrilled. So Gabe, we'll jump right into it. We wanted to give our listeners a little background on you. Tell us who you are, where you're from, all of the goodies.
absolutely. I'll just start back at the beginning. So I am an on-camera journalist and producer. I actually grew up in the Midwest and went to college at the University of Oklahoma, but like so many people do, found myself moving to the West Coast in Los Angeles. And I got into the broadcast industry and worked on a lot of red carpets. You may have heard me on Radio Disney Country, or Good Morning America. But yeah, so I do a lot of entertainment work, and I have the past couple of years, but my family still lives in Nebraska. And so one holiday, in 2019, I went home for the holidays just like normal. The entertainment industry basically shuts down over the holidays. There's not a lot of production and, different things going on. And so, yeah, I got on a plane in Burbank and flew into Colorado, drove home, and we get this knock at the door. I'm sitting there with my family a couple nights before New Year's Eve, just relaxing. My mom had cooked a nice meal, and yeah, I go answer it, and it's this local police officer. And he said, Gabe, something very strange is happening over these people's farms in the county. It's a totally remote area. Not a lot of people live there. Small towns are just kind of dotted throughout the region. And sure enough, I drove out into the prairie, looked up into the night sky, and saw all of these flashing lights just lighting up the whole region. And so that kind of kicked off this mystery and obscurum invasion of the drones, to ask questions and get answers into what these things were that were flying, and if they were in fact could be drones or something else.
So did you have a relationship with the deputy because he knew you, like your family, or because of trouble that you had been in? And there is.
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. So I used to be a storm spotter. I used to chase tornadoes. And so growing up, I would go out with this officer, and we would go chase storms in the local area. And so I'd gotten to know him pretty well. And he just knew I had an inkling for journalism and interesting stories. And he just thought, you know what, this may be something that you should look into and see. So cool. Yeah, and see, because we're kind of stumped on this one.
Wow. Okay. So on a scale, though, of I keep an open mind to, I think the birds are recording us, where exactly do you fall in terms of being a conspiracy theorist? Because when the drones, like when we started hearing about the drones really last year, it opened up a whole world for conspiracy theorists to just really go at it.
I really approach this like a journalist and going where the evidence is. I mean, that's kind of how I approach everything. But there were so many real life things happening that were very strange, almost as if we were living in which, I think Bethany Frankel said in one of her videos, the real upside down. It really was. And this happened 5 years earlier before New Jersey. So I approached this as as a journalistic type of thing to really follow where the evidence is. And I really had no idea of where I would end up 5 years later. So that's where it all began.
I can't appreciate anymore that you brought up Bethany Frankel because I am a Real Housewives person, but I know she was so big in drone talk during during the end of last year. So very important person to have on the case. So when you've met with the deputy and you've gone out to go see these drones, or you're not really sure what it is, at what point does it become, I want to pursue this as a project?
Basically, I wanted to help the people in my hometown and figure out what was flying above them because they had no clue. And if you think about it, I didn't really know this would turn into a project. I just kind of went out there. I was working at Radio Disney at the time, and I had been doing some recording at home over the break, and I had all my great recording equipment there. And I was like, I'm just going to start asking questions and see what happens here because this is very fascinating and interesting. And I didn't know at all where it would go. And so the first thing I did was, I mean, imagine this. You're sitting at home, you have someone knock on the door, and they're like, there are these weird drones hovering over people's cars. And I might add, they were the size of small vehicles. People would report them.
Whoa.
And this is in Northeast Colorado, Southwest Nebraska, Northwest Kansas. And we heard some of this in New Jersey. I'm sure you heard about this late last year. But yeah, like I mentioned, this happened 5 years earlier in almost an identical way. Now, some of the parallels are different, but it's weird to see kind of history repeating itself and be there. But yeah, so the first thing I did was just talk to all of these neighbors and just kind of see and compare what they were, experiencing and what they had
Right.
saw. And that's when some of the strange stories started to unfold out of the
Yeah.
woodwork.
Yeah. Do you feel like being from a small town and coming to hear about this story, do you think that people were more open to telling you since you were from the area and you've known a lot of these people, obviously? Do you think that gave you more access than maybe somebody else would have had?
I think so. I mean, I think it was such a weird time in general. People were talking, at the local bars or at the post office or at the grocery store. It was such a big viral topic of conversation that um, a lot of people felt comfortable, I think, talking about it in general. And yeah, it definitely added a layer of, you know, people were being open with me as
Right.
because I was from the area for sure.
So I have had a chance to listen to the first episode. I'm definitely hooked. I feel like time is not on my side. I have so many things I would love to listen to, but I'm
Me
coming
too.
back to your podcast for sure. I did listen to the first episode. I started episode 2 a little bit earlier today. I'm absolutely hooked. It's fascinating. As
So
Melissa was
good.
saying, this is like right up my alley. I love just a good weird mystery and like anything that has even a hint of a conspiracy possibly. I'm all in. So in that first episode, though, you're talking about the sheriff's deputy telling you about these drones hovering over his neighbor's farm. What were you thinking? What was your gut reaction in that moment?
I thought that this could be two things. I thought it may be related to something in the government, but I wasn't quite sure because, it's such an expansive area, and these were seen on a massive scale over many counties at the same time. And a lot of time in my research and even hearing, things at the very beginning when someone's doing a test, it's kind of over a controlled area. So I wasn't quite sure because it was over such a large region. And the second was, we have a lot of agriculture out there in Nebraska. And I thought I've seen these spray planes for years doing things over the fields. And I thought maybe this was a new type of technology that was maybe, um, working in some kind of way to like facilitate growth with like the cornfields or the wheat. And I was kind of able to quickly rule out the for sure the agricultural one early. But one of the things I wanted to dive into at the beginning was it's so hard when you see a flashing light in the sky to deduce like what it is because if someone looks on their phone and they're videoing that light may be the most interesting thing when they're telling their friends that they see, but at the end of the day it's just a flashing light. And so I wanted to dive into the why instead of the what at first and think about why these things may actually be there in the first place. And that's what led me to that. And that's what I was thinking. It could either be government or it could be related to agriculture at the beginning.
Okay. Of course, with any investigation into anything like this or anything really big, there's going to be a lot of roadblocks, I feel like, along the way. So, whether it's crime, paranormal, or whatever these drones are, what do you think was the hardest part about just getting to the bottom of your investigation?
I think the hardest thing was just the time it took because of the area was so spread out. As I mentioned, it was hard to track down people and meet people because you weren't in one metropolitan area like you were in the Northeast with, New Jersey and New York, and you're fairly close. I mean, we're talking about driving around in Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Texas. I was in Kansas. And so I was going all over the place to try to piece together what was happening here. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges. And then once you get outside of the local folks, like talking to other people that are like in local law enforcement, that actually took peeling back some layers to kind of get into those where I didn't have a previous connection to them.
Right.
Did your opinion ever kind of change? Did you ever feel like this is definitely what's going on and then find yourself thinking like, no, that's not it. It has to be something else?
That's a great question. I I didn't have outside of those early thoughts like a preconceived notion of what I 100% thought it was because I wanted to keep an open mind. But um, outside of like figuring out what was flying above people, it's a safety issue. If you've seen all the things that have happened this year with like different plane incidents and different types of things in the sky. And I think more than anything, it's important to know what's flying above us at any given time. Because if you think about it, right now, it's kind of like with all the things up there, it really is like a circus in the sky where you have helicopters, you have consumer drones, you have mysterious drones or something else. People are reporting UFOs or UAPs. You have airplanes. And so there's so many things up in the sky at one time, probably I would guess more than ever before in our time in history. And so it's kind of figuring out where those lines are between the different, things flying.
This one's for about 1/3 of you. That's actually how many of us wake up with jaw pain or headaches, often because of grinding or clenching your teeth while you sleep, which is often caused by stress. Ever heard of it? And it can actually lead to long-term damage like worn down enamel or even broken teeth, which in the words of the 70s soul group, the OJs, means money, money, money. But here's the good news. Protecting your teeth doesn't have to break the bank. Remy offers custom-fit dental-grade mouthguards that are up to 80% cheaper than what you pay at the dentist. Yes, 80%. Do I have your attention yet? Remy's process is simple. They send you an at-home impression kit, you create molds of your teeth, and you send them back. Honestly, so easy. What I really loved is that Remy has amazing videos showing you step-by-step how to do the molds, which honestly was way easier than I thought. Plus, I was able to multitask by watching Love on the Spectrum while doing my molds. After that, I threw my impressions in the packaging and sent it back to Remy, and their dental team will make a custom-fit guard and ship right to me. Plus, with a 45-night satisfaction guarantee, you can try Remy risk-free. Protect your teeth, relieve symptoms of jaw tension, and sleep more comfortably. If it's not the perfect fit, Remy's got you covered.
Remy is for anyone dealing with nighttime grinding, clenching, or jaw pain who wants an affordable solution to protect their smile and say goodnight to jaw pain and headaches. Head to shopremy.com/moms and use code MOMS to save up to 50%. That's 50% off at shopremi.com/moms with code MOMS. Give your teeth a break without breaking the bank with Remy. Thank you, Remy, for sponsoring this episode. It's interesting. I feel like part of my fascination with this case is that Melissa, I think, knows this, but my dad was an air traffic controller. So growing up, I always was really interested in what he did for work. And this was back when you used to be able to take your child to work with you as an air traffic controller. They stopped that a little after I got a little older. But I grew up sitting in the radar room and watching like all these things they were tracking, and I would go sit in the tower and be able to like visually watch the planes landing. And it was a really cool experience. But I've always been really fascinated with like aviation and things in the sky, as a result of that. So something like this, I feel like would first of all freak me out a lot. But I would absolutely want to know what on earth was going on. So did it seem like the people that you spoke to were affected by the presence of the drones, or were they kind of looking over their shoulders? Were people not really concerned? What was the general feel?
What do you think? Well, first of all, so different people had, different opinions, and I can dive into like which ones. Do you mean like the local people, or do you mean like the officials? Because I feel like they had a different opinion than the people. What people? What ones do you want me to
Why
dive
not
in
both?
first?
How about
Yeah,
the
there you
locals
go.
first?
Let's do the locals. I think the locals in general were nervous as you get into kind of the podcast, and I'll just kind of, paint a picture for you. But basically, a group of these locals came together and formed this drone hunter group and went out to investigate these things themselves. And they would have kind of a network of people in these different cars calling back and forth with each other. And so, yeah, they were really nervous about what was flying with them because at the early stages of this, and this is in late 2019, early 2020, people were reporting at any given time. And one of the first major reports of this was law enforcement, which reported 50 of them at the same time flying in the sky. But a lot of people who live in the country were saying 20, 30, 40 of them um, at one time. And you had this like white, large kind of ball shaped drone, and you had these red and white lights kind of that were smaller flashing around it, just kind of working the sky. And so people were concerned. They didn't know what it could be because when you live in the country, there's not a lot of people in driving distance from you. You may live 15, 20 miles away and you're out there and you have this weird technology hovering above your farm at night. Yeah, you're going to get a little worried.
Yeah. It gives me big Signs, the movie Signs, vibes of
Mhm.
that with the crop circles and all of that. So I finished today. I finished your series today, and the final episode you're talking about connections between drones and all these other states, and then some people are saying they're not being taken seriously when they're talking about these things. Do you feel like through your entire investigation, if this is a spoiler, don't say it. Do you feel like there was ever a cover up from what you were asking officials and stuff like that? Or do you think people genuinely didn't know or didn't feel like they could share?
I think that there is still and was a lot of confusion. I think at the end of the day, people weren't quite sure what to make of the situation. If you look at this drone mystery and kind of unpack the layers, we have this Colorado and Nebraska drone mystery from 2019 to 2020, which we cover on the podcast. Then you have ongoing sightings. There were some reported in Ohio. We've seen them in Minnesota
Mm.
as well as Illinois. And then we have the Langley Air Force Base incident. December 2023, the Pentagon went on the record and acknowledged that there were mysterious drones for 2 weeks. And then we have the Colorado and Nebraska, or then we have the Northeast sightings. So connecting all of those different incidents together, um, I do think that people are still unsure of what they saw. And that goes from local officials all the way up towards government officials. Because in the New Jersey sightings specifically, which a lot of people may be the most familiar with, you had all of these different agencies going on the record saying like, we aren't flying these aren't our drones, we're going to look into this, and the DoD and the FAA released a joint statement in December that said they were looking into these sightings. And say what you will about, what you think about the government or anyone else, a lot of times if there's something questionable, and I'm sure you both can weigh on this too, it's kind of a wink and the nod of like, oh, that may be us or it's not us. Like,
Right.
and they don't go on the record and comment. But what I noticed in this thing is both in Nebraska and Colorado and in New Jersey several years later, people went out of their way to say these aren't ours and they don't belong to us and we don't know who they belong to.
Which is incredibly scary to hear when you think like you guys are the ones that are supposed to know who this is and then to not know. Yeah, that's very, very, very scary. This is a little silly of a question, but did you ever have anything on the podcast or any interviews or anything that felt just too wild to include in your podcast, whether it's conversations or just something that was really funny or you weren't expecting it?
Well, this was actually in the podcast, but one of the weirdest things to me was the connection to an episode 3. And Mandy, I don't mean to spoil it for you, but I'll go ahead and just say it. But basically, there was this guy who was convinced that these drones or something else were related to cattle mutilations on his property.
Okay.
And so he would see these flying around at night. He got one locked into the scope of his gun and it was coming over him. And during like, a certain time frame, he had these cows, which, yeah, they were mutilated on his land. And he believes that there could be a connection to whatever was flying in the sky. So it is interesting. You
Mhm.
can't connect that and say that actually is what happened. But that was one of the stranger type of things. And like I said, I kept a very level head moving into this, and I wasn't sure where it would go. But yeah, that's definitely one of the craziest things I heard.
This is why Mandy and I could never do any sort of investigation. We would absolutely go on every theory. We would be absolute team, whatever the craziest thing was that we heard,
Yeah.
and need like an expert to be like, that doesn't make any sense. So with your podcast being out for a while now. The
Mhm.
whole first season's out, which is so great, and our listeners will absolutely love it. But were there any wild theories that you heard from listeners? Like after you've put this out, did you get people saying to you, oh my gosh, this happened to me, or I saw this? You had to have gotten some good stuff.
The armchair detectives.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, there are a lot of armchair detectives. I'm still going through my email inbox. I get them every day of people who
Ooh,
have experienced a lot of different things. And fingers crossed, we'll be doing hopefully more episodes on this and kind of to dive into it.
yeah.
Can't say for sure,
Hmm.
but I've gotten a lot of like interesting stories where people have seen these all across the country. And a lot of them, it's so weird because they're not quite sure what's in that rear view mirror behind them following. They're
Yeah.
like, it's not a star, it's low at night, and they're just not quite sure. So, um, I mean, I've heard some weird things and what I've read that like there's been connections to water and riverbeds and like in backyards of people. They've been hovering over different people's like Quonsets, their farm Quonsets. They've been in and out of their Quonsets. So I've heard some crazy things. Now I haven't looked into that, but I think there's a lot of stuff to go through, which I need to catch up on. And so I'm sure there's some great nuggets buried deep in the inbox I need to look at.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing any updates if they happen, if you have new episodes, if I look forward to hearing them. As a parent, I'm forever telling my son that besides loving him, my number one job is to protect him. And while in the 80s our parents had a lot to worry about, now we get to worry about all those things, plus anything and anyone that can be accessed on our phones. With my son, I was constantly throwing out reasons why he couldn't just have a phone, but he's really at the age where it would be helpful for him to have one. But on the other hand, I don't want to risk him having unfiltered access to everything on the internet. But I've found a solution, and that solution is Gab. With Gab, you can finally have peace of mind knowing that your kids can have a phone, but without all the risk. Gab is a leader in safe phones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens. With no social media apps, no internet browser, and built-in GPS tracking, Gab devices are designed specifically to keep kids safely connected. And the best part is that kids still get all the features they actually want. Features like the Gab Music app. It lets them stream clean music, and with the Gab Phone 4 Pro, older kids can enjoy hundreds of screened third-party apps, but only the ones that you approve. Gab also comes with unlimited talk and text on Gab Messenger, plus it has the first messaging and video calling app built with kids' safety at the top priority. My favorite part about Gab Messenger is it proactively blocks any high-risk messages and content like nudity, so it's blocked before it ever even makes it to your kid. And when it comes to just keeping in touch, it feels like this is the safest way for kids and parents to embrace technology together. I really can't recommend Gab enough. It's the most responsible solution I've found for giving my son access to a phone without worrying about what he might be exposed to.
Protecting your kids has never been easier. For the best deals, sign up to Gab today, no contract required, at gab.com/moms. That's Gab, GABB.com/moms. Gab.com/moms. Terms and conditions apply.
You know what I love about Lumi? It's honestly the fresh feeling that lasts all flippin' day, especially in this heat. You know, Mandy, I cannot stand to be hot, but add sweaty or sticky onto that? Never. Thankfully, Lumi keeps me feeling fresh from head to toe.
Same here. It's great for those places you don't even think about, like your feet or even your belly button. And honestly, I was a little skeptical at first, but now I am hooked. Lumi has got me covered from head to toe, and I mean that literally.
I love that it's safe to use anywhere, including your pits, underboobs, you name it. Lumi was actually created by an OBGYN, so I know I'm using something that actually works for my body, and it really does last for up to 72 hours.
And that type of staying power is amazing for this Florida weather. I have been loving the new Vanilla Bliss scent. It's the perfect combo of vanilla bean and sandalwood, so it's a little sweet, but not too sweet.
Plus, with options like the solid stick, spray deodorant, or deodorant wipes, I can hit all the hard-to-reach spots without worrying about aluminum or parabens. It's all pH balanced, so you can use it below the waist without hesitation.
Lumi is great for everyone, and now it's easier than ever to get it because Lumi is available at places like Walmart and Target. But if you want the best deals, we've got that for you right now. Lumi Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. Use code MOMS for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code MOMS at LUMEDEODORANT.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Lumi.
I have one last question, Mandy. I know you have a few more. You're one of the producers on this, but also Imagine Entertainment is producing this, which means Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. And my question is, how did you do that, and how can we do that?
It just kind of
It's so
honestly
cool.
it's really cool. I've been in Los Angeles for a while, and I met some really interesting people. And I got in a couple conversations with some producers there, and they loved the story and got invested in it. And before you know it, we get a partner like iHeart, and Imagine jumps on, and then Ron Howard and Brian Grazer are EPs, and it's just been this beautiful kind of relationship. Because if you think of Imagine shows, there's been so many great ones like Friday Night Lights, or even movies like A Beautiful Mind. And that's what we wanted to really put together with this audio and kind of create, a cinematic storytelling experience where you're immersed in this kind of world. And I think it's come together really well. So yeah,
That's so cool.
I'm so excited it helped happen.
Yeah. My dad, I told him that we were interviewing somebody who is working on something that Ron Howard did, and he just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. My dad's like a huge Andy Griffith fan.
Mine
And
too.
so,
My
yeah,
dad is too.
right? Well, it's
Yeah.
probably like small town. I'm from like a small town in North Florida. That's like what we watched. I know all of those. But yeah, so anyway, big deal. Thank you very much for coming on, Mandy.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I just want to know, for you, what was the big scary or the big moment? What was the biggest, the height of everything for you?
The height of everything for me was when I thought this was a local story that was in like a small area of three kind of states of Northwest Kansas, Southwest Nebraska, Northeast Colorado, and then getting to the end of the podcast, which it's been out now. And I mean, I'll just say it, hearing how this really was going on in multiple other states at that same time on a huge scale, and how the FAA was in fact aware of it. That was kind of a red flag for me, and something where I was like, huh, this is very interesting. Because if you think about it, how could someone have that much technology covering that many states all at the same time during one 4-week period in 2019? It's a lot of money if you think about it. And so
Yeah.
it has to be a huge kind of operation, regardless of who's doing it, or what's doing it. So
I guess the next big question on everyone's minds is, from where you stand today, what do you think these drones are?
that's a great question. I honestly am not 100% sure. I just know there's been strong parallels between what happened in New Jersey and what I saw in Nebraska and Colorado. And I have been able to rule out, like I said, probably 4 or 5 different theories. And that's why I wanted to put this podcast out, to really document what people were going through. And hopefully we have this place where you can share your story on the website. Hopefully we can all come together and keep asking questions and fully get to the bottom of it in other episodes and in other content with everyone, because I think that it's something that needs to be looked at, specifically even from a safety issue. So I'm not quite sure. I know the conspiracy theories are running wild over what it could be, but the bottom line is, I just go where the facts are and want to figure out what I can 100% verify. And uh, I thought this story was going to kind of maybe fade away a little bit at the end of last year. And then when the New Jersey thing kicked up, it got really wild, really quick,
Yeah.
again. And so yeah, that's where we're at now. I mean, I'm sure people want me to say, oh, there's aliens flying around up there. I
Right.
can't confirm.
He said it here.
I can't
He said
confirm.
it here on our show.
I can't confirm. But I just think that it definitely needs, warrants a lot more discussion and investigative work to kind of figure it out. And like I said, I'm not a UFO person like at all. This was just a story where I wanted to figure out for the people where I lived, like what was going on. Cause, I didn't know. And it's kind of turned into this whole thing. So
Yeah.
So, with that said, with there still needing to be a lot of questions answered, does that mean is there going to be a next season of this?
So I can't say 100% for sure, but I will say that. So I was in New Jersey. Once that stuff started popping, I got on a plane and flew to New Jersey, and I was in New Jersey at the height of those sightings there,
Ooh,
as
okay.
everything was kind of going. And so I'm looking into some stuff there now. So hopefully there will be more episodes in the future with that. But the New Jersey stuff is kind of on a whole other level. Because
Yeah.
you have high level politicians in it,
Yeah.
and different things, and so I don't know. That was yeah. So I'm really hoping there's going to be more. I'm just going to go ahead and say that yeah, we have some good stuff, and there'll be more.
All
Yeah.
right. We'll
Again,
take it.
you
Yeah.
also said that on the show. You're releasing a
I did
second
say it.
season. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Say that.
I just think that, when people listen to this, like keep an open mind and really start from the beginning and listen the full way through. I know sometimes people like to jump into different parts of different episodes and just see like, especially on YouTube, if you see a spark part and you scroll through and want to hear it, I would listen to the full thing in context because we really do look into
Yeah.
a lot of different things. And I think you're going to get the most value from it from starting at the beginning and just take time to be entertained, and I, I think you'll learn something too. So
Yeah, it's wonderful. You've honestly done
It's
such a great
fascinating.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both love it. So,
thank
Gabe,
you.
if you have a few minutes, we'd love to do a little game with you. It's conspiracy theory. We know you are a real journalist. We are not. So we can easily do these things. So I'm just
Let's
going
do
to
it.
ask a few multiple choice questions, you and Mandy. Mandy, if you can answer it before I even give choices, you get double points. The winner gets nothing, and the points mean nothing.
Okay.
I
Wait.
feel like
What's
I feel like Mandy's gonna like own this.
Well,
maybe?
let's
I don't know.
hope.
Maybe.
Let's
All right.
hope. All right.
Sometimes she gets me good with these games. We'll see.
We'll say. Okay, come on. According to a conspiracy theorist, what is hidden underneath the Denver International Airport? Mandy, do you want to say it
Oh,
before? Yeah.
go
If
ahead.
you know, go ahead.
What's hidden under there?
Oh, this isn't good if you're asking me questions. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Do you have a guess, Gabe, before I do multiple choice?
I feel like it's some like command post or something for like
Tunnels? Is it
government
tunnels?
tunnels. I don't know.
Let me help you. Is it a portal to Narnia, a massive alien command center, the Illuminati's secret bunker, or Elvis's personal bowling alley?
I think it's this
Oh, this is
bunker.
personal.
Okay, so Gabe is actually very bad at this game. Okay. So, okay, this one, Gabe, you've got this one. What unusual shape do some people believe is a signal from aliens embedded in crop fields?
Circle.
Great job, Gabe. You're back in the game.
I'm
Mandy,
back in the
winning
game.
it.
Have you all been
Barely.
to the Denver airport though? You've flown through there, right?
Mandy
You've
has.
flown
I
through?
have not. We're
I
going there
have.
this year for
Hmm.
Crime Con.
Okay, I was gonna say, I mean, it's a whole experience in itself. I mean, once
It
you get
is.
on that train, you just don't even know where you're gonna end
Yeah.
up. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Really? Oh gosh. Okay. Mandy got real big into this. I mean, in a joking way. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. Here we go. What does the birds aren't real conspiracy claim?
This one's right up your alley.
Yeah, go ahead. Birds are government drones. Birds are spies from Mars. Birds are shape-shifting robots. Birds are holograms powered by breadcrumbs.
I think it's the government drones one.
Mandy?
There's a whole story behind it. You'll have to look into it. Yeah, it's a whole conspiracy theory.
She's into this. But we'll go, this one is a little bird-ish, so we'll stay on this one, and then we've got one more. What do some people believe is the reason pigeons bob their heads? Mandy?
What? I don't
I
know.
have
This
no
isn't a
clue on
bird.
this
I've
one.
never heard
Okay.
this one.
Oh, come on, guys. We know this. To stay balanced while flying, obviously, to scan barcodes on the ground, to recalibrate their internal GPS, or to record sound with hidden microphones.
Well, if birds are drones, I guess it could be any of those things.
Hmm. I'd
That's
say the hidden
weird.
microphones.
Thank you, Gabe. I think you've taken the lead because Mandy should have gotten that one. Okay, last one. What's the conspiracy theory behind the Berenstain Bears spelling? So what is that
Oh,
called?
Mandela effect.
Mandela effect.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I have no clue. So
Okay, then you'll have to go choices. That the
Oh,
Bears
man.
changed it themselves to hide from tax evasion, a government typo gone viral, or we are in a parallel universe where it was always Berenstain Bears,
We're in a parallel universe.
Okay, yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah. I do have moments where I could believe that because it was never spelled that way. Gabe, I'm going to say that you won because you're the guest.
Right, I'll take it.
But Mandy
I'll take
kind of
it.
smoked you there at the end.
You really did. I mean, I'm glad.
It
It's
would have
all
been
right.
embarrassing
Yeah,
for us.
I know. I'm embarrassed that I could win a silly game
I think
about
it's more
conspiracy
embarrassing to
theories.
win, I have to be honest.
I agree. Gabe, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. This has been an absolute pleasure. We would love to hear from you where we can find your show, how to listen, anything else that you would like to share with us before we get out of here.
Absolutely. You can listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and you can search Obscurum Invasion of the Drones or anywhere else. You can also listen on our website, obscurumseries.com. And we have some videos. I mentioned that guy who had the craft in the barrel of his gun. You can see that in one of our
Ooh.
videos, and some interesting social content. So yeah, make sure to check that all out. One of the best things you can do, we talked about this early too, is leave a comment wherever you listen to the podcast and tell me if you're seeing these drones, because I'm scrolling through and trying to find inspiration for future episodes to see which direction this is going to go. So it's very helpful, like we talked about, that you leave a comment so I can know your story.
Awesome. And we will
Awesome.
have all this information, of course, in our show notes. Gabe, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad we got connected. You are an awesome guest, and we've learned so much. Love your podcast. Love it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I guess
Thank
that
you.
would be the normal
No,
thing to say.
no, thank you. It's been so much fun, and we'll have to do this again and hang out. And I want to hear more about like working with like the FAA and like the airport security and all the stuff that you did with your dad. That's pretty
It's a
interesting.
lot
What did
different now
yeah,
than it
you're
was back then.
well, you're gonna. I mean, I just last question. I want to ask
Oh,
you, what
please.
did you think when you first heard of the drones, having that whole history, and you heard about all of these mysterious drones? Did you think they were actually drones or small planes or something else?
Careful, Mandy.
I know.
Careful. Don't go too far down a rabbit hole.
I have my theories. I don't know if I want
She's
them on
gonna
the record.
she's gonna say UFOs.
No,
We
no,
wish.
but actually, you know what's like funny? My husband has like his theories about UFOs and stuff, and he thinks it's time travelers from the future that are coming back to check
You're
us
going to
out.
let us keep that in the show, but you won't say anything? You threw him under the
No,
boat.
I
The
can't
bus.
say. I can't say what I think. I think
It's better.
I think the explanation is probably a lot simpler than
Yeah.
You
what
know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to put
most
a
people are
long
thinking.
beep for whatever you said. I'm just going to put a beep, and people can just fill it in.
Make it sound like
Perfect.
I said something
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Gabe. Well, thank you so much. Well, again, we'll have everything in the show notes. Check out Obscurum right now and find it wherever you get your podcast. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Absolutely.
again.